Very good afternoon to all of you. In our previous session, we have seen what is constructor, how we can make a different kind of constructors like a default constructor and the parameterized constructor, right? This is what we have seen. Then we have seen what is the difference between method and constructor, right? Method that you need to call explicitly, and the constructor that will be automatically called, implicitly called whenever you are creating an object, right? Then we have seen the use of this keyword, where we are using this keyword whenever there is a naming collision, means if your formal parameters are also having the same name as your instance variable, then at that time you need to use this. If you wish to call another constructor from the parameterized constructor, you wish to call default constructor, then also you can write, you can use this keyword and you can call it. You can even pass this as in a parameter of method as well as into the constructor. This is what we have done, right? And now we will start with method overloading. Okay, the content programs that is taken from the complete reference by Herbert Schill. I hope I'm audible to you guys. Very less numbers, huh? Only 16, 15, I think. Yeah. Fine. Okay. So let's start with method overloading. Okay. You already know what is function overloading, right? What was that? It's a kind of, you can say, the compile time polymorphism. Now, what do you mean by polymorphism? Polymorphism means it's, actually, that word is from a Greek word that is polymorph, that polymorphic, or you can say one name but many forms, right? So, what do you mean by polymorphism? So, in that, you can say that it is actually known as a compile time polymorphism, where your method name would be same, but only your number of argument or the data type of those argument will get changed, right? So this is what you know about the method overloading. So the same thing about this, if I'm having any method, that void add method, right? And here if I'm taking integer a, I'll write something inside this method. Now I'm creating another method, integer add, integer a. So these two methods are same. This is not known to be as method overloading, right? This is not method overloading. Why? Because if you are just simply changing written type, it doesn't mean that these two methods are different. Okay. So here, if I'm adding like this integer b also, then this is known as again method overloading. Why? Because I'm having the same name for my method, but the number of argument or the parameter that will get changed. I could have even one method like this, voided, where I'll be having double variable, say suppose double d. So both the methods are having only one parameter, but the data type is the changed one. So that is fine. This is known as method overloading. More than one method who are having the same name but different number of parameters or data type of this parameters would be different. Clear this thing? Yes or no? It is very similar. Yes, yes, Shekhar. Yes. Same name but different, not different actually the written type, but number of parameters, right? That would be different, or the data type would be different. But if written type would be different, then you cannot say that they both are the different methods. No, they both are the same one. And the compiler will raise an error. Okay, fine. So I'm directly showing you one or two example, and then we'll move on to PPT, right? Okay. Here I'm having one program that is overload demo. In that I'm having one method void test. First method, it's not having any argument. I'm simply writing system.out.println, no parameters. Another method, void test. And here I'm having one argument, it's integer type. And I'm simply printing that value of A. Again, I'm having the same method name, that is test. And here I'm having two arguments, and I'm simply printing the value of A and B is this. Okay. Then I'm having double taste. Here also it's taste. Here also it's taste. Here it's only one argument. Here also only one argument. But here the data type is changed. So that is okay. Here I'm having integer. Here I'm having double. Okay. And here simply I'm printing the value of A and I'm returning A square, means A into A. Where whatever I'm returning, their data type is double. So for my method, return type would be double. This is double into double. It will generate your answer in double, and that is why you are returning it. So here the return type is double. I hope you are getting this thing, right? Now I'm taking another class, right? And in this class, in this public static void main, first I'm creating the object of this overload demo class, that is OB. And here I'm taking another variable result because one of my method is returning something. So if it's throwing something, to catch that value, to store that value, I have taken this another variable. So first, when I'll call that object dot taste, and here I'm not passing any argument, so it will call directly this first method, right? Second time when I'm writing ob.test, so here I'm passing 10. So 10 means integer value. So it will go over here, and here I'm having this integer value. So this method will be called, and this value of A will be printed. That is 10. Here I'm having two parameters, 10 and 20. So that will be called with two parameters. And now here I'm passing ob.test 123.25. So here this number is in double. So here this method will be called, and it will return something that's A into A, that will be stored in result, and that I'll print over here. Any doubt in this? Hopefully not. Okay. Fine. Okay. Now the another example for the overloading only. Say suppose I'm not having that method like void test integer A, that I'm not having. Okay, I'm not having that method here, and I'm having all the other methods like integer A and integer B, means we are having the two parameters in this method test. Here I'm having double A, so a single parameter but having double value only, and that what we are printing over here only. I have made it as void test, right? It is not like now double test, which was returning me A into A. Instead of that, I made it very simple, void test, double variable, and I'm simply printing the value of A. Okay. Now, here, I'm having this integer I. Okay, first I have created the object. Now I'm having one more variable integer I, and I have passed some integer value. Okay, first time when I'll call this method object.test, it will call this method. No confusion in this, right? Second time it will call this 10 and the 20. No confusion in that. We are having this method with two parameters, so it will be called. Now here ob.test, and I'm passing I. I'm passing over here, that is I, and I is with the data type integer. So do I have any method who is having integer data type and single parameter? Do we have any method over here? We are having only three methods here. One single parameter, that is double. Here this is for the two parameters. Now here no parameters. So at that time, what the compiler will do? Anyone? What the compiler will do at that time? Yes. It will call the double one. Yes, correct. Right? It will convert integer to double. Yes, implicitly convert. Okay. So yes, all the answers are correct, right? So what it will do is, here the compiler will do a very first task, that it will find the perfect match. Okay, it will try to find the perfect match. It will go to all these three methods, here, here and here, but finally no perfect match is found. So it will find the relevant match now, right? That relatively, if any of the method is matched or not, then here you can consider that this 10 will be converted into 10.0, right? Okay, this is what the implicit conversion, widening conversion, integer to double, right? So that is why this method will be called, and here 10.0 will be printed, right? Okay, and if you are passing the double values, then there is no problem. That is very simple. We are already having one method for it, which is having double data type as a parameter. So there is no problem with this method. Only the confusion was for this. We are not finding any best match for this. So it will find the nearby match, or you can say relevant match. Okay. That is what the method overloading. Two examples. One more example I'll show you over here. Here you have seen that whatsoever the method you are making, if those methods are not the static one, what you need to do, you just need to create the object, and you are invoking, you are calling your method via object. So object dot method name, this is what you used to do. But you already know that if my method is the static one, right? If the method is static one, you don't have to create any object. You can directly call, you can directly invoke this method by just the class name. All right. So here, class adder, here is I have taken this method as a static. And if you don't want to take it, then also it's fine. But I'm just showing you the different ways. Though why you need to make the static and all, that we will learn in very next lecture. Okay, very next session. So here I'm having the static method, static integer add integer a and b, and it will simply return a plus b. Again, I'm having this integer add, but here number of parameters has been changed. Here I'm having 1, 2, and 3, a, b, and c. It will simply return a plus b plus c, right? Name itself says what this method will do. It will simply do the addition. Okay. Now I'm having class main. In that public static void main, I'll directly print. Why? Because these methods are returning something. If they are returning something, then to catch that value, either I need to take another variable to store their answers, and then I can print over here, or else directly you can call these methods from system.out.println. So I don't want to store anywhere, right? So here I'll call directly without creating object, just by your class name. So what is my class name? Adder. So adder dot add, and I'm simply passing some values for this parameter, right? And same way another one. I hope this thing is clear. What is method overloading, right? Okay, good, very nice. Fine, very nice, good. Okay, so next task is here you can even pass, because see, if we have seen in our methods that what you can do, you can pass any integer value as a parameter, you can pass double as a parameter, you can pass character into the parameter. So you know how to pass parameter to methods, right? And as well as to the constructors, so that you know. But here now what we are doing is same like your C++, you need to pass object as parameter, right? So here now we will see that how we can pass object as a parameter. So you already know how you can pass it. Very simple. If I'm having this integer add or ABC, whatsoever the function, say suppose fun, how I can pass the object as a parameter. First, I need to write a class name. So say suppose class name is test. So I'll write test and O. So that is my object name. So this is how I can pass the object. And whenever I'm calling this method, at that time, first what I'll do, I'll call my method with some object. So say suppose object one dot fun, and here I'm passing another object or the object itself. That is up to you. So this is how you can call that method. Here you were passing integer a like this, or float value, or some double value, right? Instead of that, now you are passing the whole object. So OB1 or OB2 you can pass. Very simple thing, very simple, right? I'll show you the example, don't worry. Before that, if we have started with this overloading, right, we will see one more example, that is for overloading constructor. Okay, I'll not explain you right now this, that we will see again once we will learn how to pass object. Okay, after that I'll explain that part. So here, okay, so here what we are doing is, here we are doing constructor overloading. You already know, if you are having the same name of method and different parameters, number of parameters either different or the data type of the parameter would be different, then it is known as method overloading. So very similar way, if you are having a constructor, more than one kind of constructor with number of parameters would be different, or the data type would be different, then it is known as constructor overloading. Same as the method overloading. Very similar. Here also you would be having total number of parameters every time will be changed. Here I'm having 3, then the next time I'll be having 4, 5, and so on. Or else I would be having a different data type here. I can take integer also. Okay. So that is known as constructor overloading. And we have seen this example already, right? Box, I'm having 3 variables, width, height, and depth. And now I'm having parameterized constructor, because I'm having 3 parameters, width, height, and depth. According to that, I've taken this constructor, right? And I'm simply initializing my object, or I'm giving the value for my object, width, height, and depth equals to this W, H, and D. That's just what I'm doing. Okay. Then if user forget to give any value, whenever they are creating an object, if user forget to give some value, then by default you can give some value to width, height and depth. So for that you are having default constructor, or you can say no argument constructor. So here I'm having no argument constructor where I'm specifying width, height and depth equals to -1, or you can set 10, 10, 10. So that is up to you. Whatever you like, you can pass over here. Okay. Then if your box is a cube, right? When the cube has been created, so at that time width, height and depth, all three dimensions will become same, right? So I just need to pass a single argument over here, that say suppose 5. So width would be 5, height would be 5 and the depth would be 5. All will be 5. So that you can set like this by a single parameter, but it will set your width, height and depth all to whatever the user have given with that. Okay. So I'm having three different constructor. One is three parameterized constructor. One is no argument constructor. Another one is one parameterized constructor. And I was having one method for finding volume, which will return width into height into depth, right? And here I'm having my class overloaded constructor where I'm creating an object. First object, my box 1 equals to new box, and I'm passing three parameters. So whenever I'm writing like this, automatically constructor will be called. Now I'm having more than one constructor, so it will check where I'm having three parameters, that constructor will be called. So this one will be called. Okay, and the value for width, height and depth will set. Then second time, I'm not giving any parameter over here. So it will call your no argument constructor, means this one, right? And it will set your width, height, depth with some value, whatever you have given. Then I'm having box my cube equals to new box, and I'm simply passing one parameter because it is cube. Cube means whatever I'll give the length, that will be for width, height and depth. All three dimensions will have same value. So it will call this constructor, right? And here, this is for the copy constructor. So that I'll explain once I'll explain you how to pass the object as a parameter. And here what you are doing is you are simply calculating volume of my box 1, my box 2 and my cube. Simple. You will call this method volume by its object. Simple. So this is known as constructor overloading. We have seen method overloading, same way constructor overloading. Okay, fine. Okay. So here, another example where you are passing an object, right? Yes. Can we also pass object as a parameter in constructor overloading? Yes, you can. You can pass object in constructor also, in method also. Maybe 3, exactly 3 or maybe 3.5, Ashish. Because right now we are on the third unit and it will hardly take maybe 2 to 3 lectures. So we will be able to finish this one also, third one. So we'll start with the fourth one, and if fourth one will be done, then we really don't know when the mid one will be there. Okay. Okay. We'll move on to our next program. Here, how we are passing an object. So here I'm having class test, right? And here I'm having two instance variable A and B, right? Now what I'm doing is I'm simply making one constructor, right? where I'll take I and j. They are my formal parameters. Via that, I'm setting my instance variable that a equals to I and b equals to j. Very simple task, right? Then I'm having one method which will compare that whether this objects a and b, both the values are same or not. To check that, I've taken over here equals method. If here I'm passing a string, right, then equal method directly work. It will simply check your string and it will return you true or false, right? You don't have to write any logic. But here, whatsoever I'm passing over here, that is not string. They are not actually your user defined, built-in data type, or you can say the primitive data type, right? Here, whatsoever you are passing, that is user defined data type. User defined data type means class, right? So here equals method will not simply calculate logic by its own. So you have to give the logic that what I need to check. Okay. So before explaining this, we will see this. Here I'm having pass object in that this public static void main. Here, very first task, what I'll do is I'll create an object. So I'm creating the object of test class that ob1 equals to new test, and I'm passing the value for my a and b, that is 100 and 22. I'm creating another object ob2 equals to new test. Again, I'm giving the same value for my a and b. Object 3, some different value. And now I'm checking that whether my object 1 is equals to object 2 or not. So what I need to check? I need to check object 1 dot a is equals to object 2 dot a is there or not, as well as its object 1 dot b equals to object 2 dot b or not. But you already know whenever this method will be called, it will be invoked. It will be invoked via one object, that is object 1. So here in this method, already object 1's a and b has been passed via this keyword implicitly. We cannot see this, but it is there. Okay. So throughout this method, everyone know what is a and b of object 1, because here object 1 has invoked method. Okay. So whosoever is invoking the method, whosoever is calling this method, their data will be referred here only via a and b. But whatsoever you are passing as a I hope my screen is visible to you guys, right? Yeah. Okay. So here for object 2, here you have to write that here you have passed it as a parameter. So here this object 2 is nothing but O here. You can even take same name OB2. So you won't have any kind of confusion, right? You can take like this. So this object 2, what I have passed as a parameter, object 2, their A and B is not known. It's not known. So that is why you are specifying that object 2 dot a means we are talking about this. it is equals to only A or not. So this only A is nothing but it is something like this, but you don't have to write. Okay. This is object 1 dot A, but it is actually there via this dot A. This means it is referring to your current object. And who is your current object? Whosoever has invoked this method, whosoever has called this method. So who has called this method? Object 1. So here this means it's object 1. But you don't have to write even this dot A because it is by default there. I hope this thing is very clear to you guys. Yes or no? Yes. Yes, Shaker. It will be implicitly there, but we cannot see this only, right? It will be there. Clear this thing? Hello? Yeah. So if here, I'll change that object 2 dot object 1. Okay, I'm showing you another way. So here, who is calling this method? Who is invoking this equals method? OB2. So here, A and B of OB2 is already known. Why? Because OB2 has invoked this method. And here, whatever I have passed, that is OB1. So here, I'm having OB1. So I need to check OB1 dot A equals to A or not. So this A means it's nothing but OB2 dot A, right? Because OB2 has invoked this method. I hope now it is clear, right? Is it, everyone? Okay. So this is how we can check, right? I'm again making the same what it was there previously, right? Here I'm having O, right? And I'm writing O dot A equals to A and O dot B equals to B. Okay. This O is nothing but your object 2. You can give any name over here as your formal parameter, right? And its data type is taste, right? If this is so, here I have given the condition and means A and B both should be similar, then and only then it will return you true, else false, right? So first time you will get true and second time you will get false. Why? Because object 1 is 100 and 20 and sorry, it's 22, right? And object 3 is -1 and -1, so it will return you false, right? So here it's true and this one is false. Any doubt in this? Hopefully no, right? Okay. Then the next thing that what I said, then I'll show you about the constructor, right? So now you know how to pass object. So here you can see that here I have taken name as a CP. CP means nothing but it's a kind of copy constructor. Okay. This is my copy constructor. And I'm saying that box CP equals to new box, and here I'm passing my object. Why? Because I don't want to set all the variables again. Say suppose here I'm having 50 or 100 different variables. So every time I'll not set that. Instead of that, what I'll do, I'm saying that whatsoever the my box 1 is having the values, the same values I want. Okay. So simple, that thing I need to do, I'm simply passing this mybox1 object as a parameter over here. So what it will do, it will directly check that particular constructor who is having object as in parameter. So it will go over here at the top. Here this is the object, its data type, or you can say its type is box, a class name. And at that time, what you need to do, you just need to set this width, height, and depth equals to whatsoever the object you have passed, their width, height, and depth. So here I have passed my box 1. Here I have passed my box 1. So my box 1's width, height, and depth will be set to my CP's width, height, and depth. Okay, clear this thing? width, height, and depth. I have not written here CP dot, right? Because it is by default, implicitly. Why? Because CP object has invoked this constructor. That is why their width, height, and depth will be referred here, right? And that will be set to object dot width, object dot height, object dot depth. So I hope this thing is clear how you can pass object. Yes, Shaker? Fine. Okay. Now a very simple thing. David, I already explained. Okay. What you are doing over here, you are passing one object of which type? That is of box. Okay, so that object you have taken over here, say suppose here you are passing my box 2. Okay, so here 10 10 10 will be there by default, that what we have set, or -1 -1 -1 I have set right now, right? Their value will be over here, object dot width. So this will refer what? -1. That I am giving to my CP dot width, CP dot height, CP dot depth. But you don't have to write this thing over here. Why? Because it will be already width, height, and depth is known in this area. Why? Because who has invoked this constructor? CP has invoked this constructor. CP is responsible for invoking this constructor. So their width, height, and depth is known. So you don't have any surname in front of this, right? And here, this width, height, and depth is for object. So object dot width, object dot height, and that will be set to this. Okay, fine. Okay. Fine. So now if we are talking about the methods, so already one topic will be there, which is call by value and call by reference. Okay, that will be there. And you already know where the value will actually get changed and where it won't get changed, right? Whenever you are calling by value, it won't get changed. Whenever you are calling by reference, the actual value will get changed. So we'll check one example for that. Here is the call by value. Okay. What I'm having is, I'm having one class test, right? Simple types. And I'm having one method, which is void met. Here I'm having two formal parameters, that is I and j. Now, whatever multiplication, division I'm applying, that is on my formal parameter. What would be the scope of my formal parameters? What would be the scope of my formal parameters? Wherever it is declared, they are starting to ending. Okay, wherever it is declared. This is my method parameters, right? Formal. So it is only known within this opening and closing. They know who is I and j. So here I'm doing what? I equals to I multiply by 2, j equals to j divide by 2. So multiplication and division, that what I'm applying, right? And now I'm simply printing I and j here, right? I'm simply printing this I and j here. If I'll comment over here, so I'm not printing. See, suppose I'm not printing. Okay. Now I'm having another class that is the call by value in this public static void main. I'm creating the object of my test class. And here I'm having two variables, integer a and b, 15 and 20. Now I'm printing that before my function call, before my method call, what is the value of a and b? So here simply 15 and 20 will be printed. 15 and 20. Fine. Now I'm calling my method meth. ob, that is my object dot method, and I'm passing the parameter a and b.
So 15 and 20 will be passed to this ij. Okay. And now after this thing, again, I'm printing that. Now what is the value of A and B after the method call? What should be the value? Can anyone tell me this? Hello? Okay, so many of you are giving the answer 15 and 20, so that is the correct one. Why? Again, see over here, there are the two different variables are here. First is, here I'm having I and j. So whatever I'm doing with this I and j, that will not affect my original value A and B. Here A and B, they are the different one, and here I'm having I and J, they are the different one. No. So if I'm multiplying, dividing, anything I'm doing with I and J, that value how can be affected to A and B? Because once if I'm getting out of this method, nobody knows who is I and J, right? So if I'm once out of this loop, and again if I'll print for this A and B, then it will always take my 15 and 20 only, right? Because I haven't done any change in my original value of A and B, no? Right? So both the time it will print 15 and 20, no 30 and 10. Because that value of 30 and 10, that is for my I and J. And if I'm printing over here this statements, surely they will print 30 and 20, that whatever you are saying. Okay. But it won't affect, because this is whatever I've done, that is with I and J, no? So I and J, they are two different variables. A and B, they are two different variables. So whatever I'm doing with I and J, that will not affect my A and B's, right? Clear this thing? That is known as call by value. Yes, we have called the methods. Yeah, okay, great. So now we will see how it will be affected. When it will be affected, if we are passing by reference, and reference means here we are passing whole object. Okay, we don't have that sign over here. That is a very good thing, that we don't have that pointer wala sign. We don't have this ampersand sign, that here this is the reference and this is the pointer. No, we don't have such kind of things. Simply if we are passing a whole object over here, it means you can directly manipulate the values of the object if I'm passing the whole object. Clear this thing? Okay. So here you can see I'm having one class test, right? Here I've taken two instance variable A and B. If I'm having two instance variable, I need to initialize them. So I need to take constructor over here. Here I'm having I and J, which will set the value of my A and B. So A equals to I, B equals to J. This is what I have done. Now, here I'm having my method void math. Previously, I have passed over here integer I and integer J inside my method parameter. Okay. So here these two are something different. But here what I'm doing is I am passing object as a parameter. Okay. So here my object itself has been passed. So whatever I'm doing this multiplication and division, that is directly operating on my original object. Okay, on my original object. So here I'm doing O dot A, means this object dot A multiply equals to 2. So it means what? Here I have used shorthand operators. So it means that O dot A equals to O dot A multiply by 2, right? This is what I can write in shorthand operator like this. And here I'm dividing it, right? Now here in call by reference in this public static void main, first I'm creating object and I'm passing the value 15 and 20. So this 15 and 20 will be set to my instance variable A and B, 15 and 20. All right. And here I'm printing that what is the value before call. So object.a, object.b, this is what I'm simply printing. So it will be before call 15 and 20. Now I'm calling my method via object, that object.meth, and I'm passing object itself. Okay, object itself. So here my object has been passed, this object, and here whatever we are manipulating the values, that is on my original copy, original value. So here you will get the answer 30 and 10. Clear? Right? So this is known as call by reference. Shubham, why not clear? This is what we have learned, this call by value and call by reference from the C language, then C++, and now in Java. We actually don't have to waste the time, I mean, half an hour for call by value and call by reference. It's very easy to understand. Here I'm simply passing the original object itself and passing object as a parameter, right? So whatever the manipulation is happening, that is on my original object. So the value will be reflected. Simple. Because I don't have any other variables. I'm actually operating on my object only. Okay? Fine? Fine. So now back to our slide. I'm again showing you another examples, right? We're passing and returning object from the method. That how you can pass and how you can return. So for returning an object, I'll show you another example first, and then we will again come to this. Yes, here. You have to be more attentive, huh? You have to be more attentive, otherwise you won't get here what I'm doing in this returning an object. Okay, so please pay attention over here. What I'm doing is, here I'm having my class test. I've taken one instance variable A. I need to set the value for this. I need to initialize it. So I'll take constructor, one parameter, whatever the user will give as I, that will set to my A. So this A equals to I. Now I'm having one method named as increment by 10. This is what my method name. Whenever my method I'm declaring or defining, at that time it would be having return type. So generally you have seen, you could be having integer, you could be having float over here, you could be having double over here. Why? Because it's returning double value, so it is double. If it is returning integer value, then it is integer. But here what I'm returning this variable temp. And what is the data type of temp? That is test. So temp is nothing but it's an object. So I'm returning an object. So always whenever you are returning an object, at that time you have to write over here their class name. So what is the class name? Test. So I need to write return type as test. I hope this thing is clear. Why I have written test over here is, yes, in call by reference, we are always passing object as a parameter. Yes. Okay. So here I'm doing what? I'm creating one object, that test temp equals to new test. And whenever I'm creating temporary object, it will take the value of your current object, I mean value of your A. Whatsoever the instance variable is there, it will take that value and it will simply increment it by 10. That is why the method name is increment by 10. So I need to do plus 10. whatever the value I'm having for a plus 10, so it will do increment by 10. And I'm simply returning this object that return 10. Now tell me, in my volume method, if you know, what is the difference between returning data type or object? Isn't both are the same? Difference between returning data type. I mean, okay, they both are very similar. Yeah, it is very similar, but this is something like it is not easy to adapt. It is not easy to accept that we are returning object as just like your normal data type. Right? Simple, Ashish? Yeah. Otherwise, it is very similar. See, I'm explaining that only. If you remember that void volume method, here I'm writing, be attentive, double volume. Here I was having such kind of method which was returning, I'm writing in short, width into height into depth. So why I have written double over here? Because my variable WHND was having data type double. Okay, and whenever I'm calling this method, say suppose from the public static void main, I have called the method like object one dot volume. So I cannot directly call the method like this. Why? Because it's returning something, it is throwing something, some value, so you need to catch it. So to need to catch, what I need to do, I need to take one temporary variable with the same data type. Right or wrong? Right. So here I'll take, for example, double VOL equals to. So in this volume variable, which is of type double, I'll store this answer, whatsoever they are throwing. Okay, that I'm catching over here, and that will be stored in volume. And then I'm printing, okay, this is the volume. Yes or no? Same way. Here what I'm throwing, temp. This temp is what? It's an object of class test. So here I'm having return type test, but somebody would be there who will catch this value. Yes or no? So for that, I have created this another object. Okay. So here I'm having simple test ob1 equals to new test and 2. So here I'm passing the value of a, that is 2. And now I'm taking test object 2, that object 2 equals to, now you are calling this method object 1 dot increment by 10. So here ob1 dot increment by 10, this is how you are calling this method. So here the value of a will be referred for whom? Object 1. Object 1 is having value of a, that is 2. So ultimately it will do 2 plus 10. Right or wrong? Right. Finally, it will calculate and it will return this, it will throw this. It will throw this, so it will be catched by this object 2. So object 2 is finally having the value for its A, that is 12. Now again what I'm doing is, I'm doing over here that simply printing object 1 dot A and object 2 dot A. So what will be printed? Here it will print 2 and here it will print 12. And now what I'm doing is object 2 equals to object 2 dot increment by 10. So again, it will refer here the value of A, that is for, here the value of A will be referred as 12. And then it will do 12 plus 10. So finally it will return the value 22. Yes or no? And that will be stored in object 2. And then I'll print object 2 dot A. So here it will give you 22. Clear this thing? If not, then also you can ask me in the next session again, right? So you can write down your numbers and you may leave the meet. Thank you. We need to wind up and I'm having another session after this. So thank you.
You may leave the meet once you are writing your number. So please write your number and leave the meet. Sagni, Sampanna, Regina, Ranim, Haimanath, Gloria, Anmol, Allah, Sudarshan, Zacharias. Write your numbers and you may leave the meet. Yes, Allah. You can mute yourself. You can
Yes,
write your
ma'am.
number and you may leave.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I'm present. Yes.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
ask you if you
want
let me present or not. I can leave.